write a function g whose graph represents the indicated indicated transformation of the graph of f. Use a graphing calculator to check your answer. So this is a horizontal stretch by factor of 2. So we do g of x. We're going to write down the function notation first, the formula. So this is horizontal. Is that outside or inside? Inside. So no brackets, just f of. And then this is a factor of 2, so I have to decide what I'm multiplying by.
1/2.
I got 1/2, I got 2, I got 4.
4.
So anytime it's horizontal, we do the opposite operation. So instead of multiplying by 2, we divide by 2, but that's the same thing as times a half. Right? So this is a half. So that's our formula. And I hope that you guys are writing that every single time, because as Algebra 2 high school students, this is part of the curriculum.
So you're going to go
Have you been doing it and correcting your work every time when I've been doing it?
Well, I don't do that, but if I get it wrong, you want to fail this class?
If I write it, you write it. Okay? Okay. Where was I? Oh, so now we're going to put this inside. So this means replace
X with 1/2.
x with 1/2 x in parentheses. So g of x equals 4 parenthesis 1/2 x close parenthesis plus 2. Who needs help? It's really hard when you miss a really important day and then you try to come back and haven't watched the videos and stuff. It is hard. What is 2x plus 2? What does that equal? Can I add these together?
No, you cannot.
Not like terms, so you just leave it. Okay. How about 6? We have a vertical shrink by a factor of 1/3. So g of x equals, so this one is vertical. That means outside of the brackets. What goes on the outside? 1/3, because it's vertical, we use the exact same number. So inside my brackets, I'm going to put the function absolute value of x minus 3. I'm going to stop talking. Please do not yell it out. I want you to write down, I'm not going to call anybody yet. I want you to write down what you think the answer would be when you simplify it. So you should distribute the 1/3 to the absolute value in front and distribute the 1/3 to the minus 3 to get 1/3 absolute value of x minus 1. Because of the brackets. What?
Why come you need the brackets?
So that you know to distribute to both. This is, you know, the distributive property that's like A is B plus C, where you have to like distribute. Yeah.
I know that, but why do you have to distribute? Like, can't you just do 1/3 x?
So why I have to distribute is this is 1/3 of the entire function, not just 1/3 of part of the function. It's 1/3 of the entire function, so everything has to get the 1/3. So if you're not in your seat and you're just causing problems over there, we won't be allowed to switch. If you need to see and that's why you had to move, that's great, but I can just move you over here instead of over there. All right, example 5 is combining transformations. This is the stuff that's the trickiest, right? Combining transformations is the trickiest. What you'll have is you're going to have 2 different steps, and you want to organize this and you want to do it as 2 different steps. So I'm going to use color, and I'm going to use different letters to just help us separate these 2 different steps. So let the graph be a vertical shrink by a factor of 0.25 followed by a translation 3 units up of the graph of f of x equals x. Okay, so this followed by is kind of like the halfway point. This is the point in the middle where we're going to simplify. If it says followed by, we're going to simplify it. If it says followed by, we're going to simplify. Awesome. If it says followed by, we're going to simplify. And the stuff that comes before the followed by is only halfway through the function. It's only halfway. So I'm going to call this part h of x, standing for halfway. And the part that's after is going to be g of x, and that's going to finish it. So we're going to separate this into 2 steps. I'm going to start with h of x. And we're just looking at vertical shrink by factor of 0.25. Vertical shrink by a factor of 0.25. So vertical shrink is vertical. It's going to go on the outside of brackets. I'm going to put a 0.25 multiplied by that. So my function, my f of x is what? X. So we're just going to have, I don't know where you're getting 2f(x) from. 0.25? Is that what you meant? 0.25x. Yeah. And then I can multiply together the 0.25 and the x. They do multiply together, so we can drop our brackets. We got 0.25x. So that's halfway. That's the green part. Now we have simplify. My second part is I'm going to do translation 3 units up of the graph. So I'm going to have it's up, that is vertical. Translating 3 units up is going to look like that. Question? Okay. If you don't follow the order, sometimes you get it right, sometimes so wrong. Sorry, what?
What if you the order that it's telling you to do is translate and then separate? So would it not be that?
If I did it in a different order for this one, you will get a completely different answer in the end. So you always want to go in the order they give you. Did I answer your question? Because that would be a different answer for this one.
Wait, why?
Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm taking the previous function, which I accidentally called f at first. I'm taking this function here and adding 3 to the previous function.
Wait, so instead of putting h of x, can you just put 0.25?
Yes, so my next step will be, let's plug in.
Did you just call it like 1/4 x? Or does it have to be 0.25?
I don't change the way that it's given to me, because that might have some real life advantage of having 0.25. Maybe we're talking about money instead of 1/4. I just write it however it's given to me. So now if I add 0.3, will that change the 0.25x in any way? No. So then that would be my answer. If I went in the other order, if I did the plus 3 first, then multiply by 0.25, I would have to distribute the 0.25. So it would be a different answer if I went in the other order. So we're going to do another one like that, where there's 2 transformations happening. You have to separate them and do them in pieces. So I look for the followed by, which means simplify. And that's going to kind of divide up my 2 sections. Translation of 6 units down. So if we're doing 6 units down, is that vertical or horizontal? It's vertical. So we're going to do our halfway function is going to be h of x. Well, like halfway through, I like to call h of x. And then the final one will be g of x. 6 units down is going to be on the outside, minus 6 of the function. And my function for this one is absolute value of x. So h of x equals absolute value of x minus 6. That simplifies a little bit. H of x equals absolute value of x minus 6. Now what do we do? Reflection in the x-axis. So that's vertical or horizontal? Here's the x-axis. If we're going up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down, that's vertical. So we're going to take our h of x equation, and since it's vertical, the negative will be on the outside of the bracket. So g of x is going to equal negative bracket absolute value of x minus 6. So I just use the previous one to plug in. I did need those brackets because now I have to do what with the negative sign? Yeah, distribute. But don't go into the wall. Go in the room. We get negative absolute value of x plus 6. Okay, the very last question is a real life application. Like you have to read it and figure it out. We'll do it together. So you design a computer game. Good for you. Your revenue for x downloads is given by f of x equals 2x. What does revenue mean?
Money. Profit. No. If it meant profit, it would say profit. Are you serious? Oh! It's actually revenue.
Yes.
What does revenue mean?
Revenue means income, especially when the company or organization.
What? Australia?
So whose phone is Australian?
That's kind of creepy.
Oh my God. Is that a woman? What kind of man?
Okay. So the money coming in is revenue. It's all the money coming in. All the money coming in is revenue. All the money coming in is 2x. What's x stand for?
Money spent.
X is the number of downloads. So you get 2 times the number of downloads. You get $2 per download, basically. $2 per download. Your profit is $50 less than 90% of the revenue. So the profit is like, after you pay your expenses, how much you actually get to keep. So it's $50 less than 90% of the revenue. So we have to take f of x, and we need to figure out what kind of transformations that would be and find the new equation for profit. So 90%, $50 less than 90%. So we're going to start with 2x. What are we going to do first? $50 or 90%? There's nothing to plug in.
$50 less? How about 50 equals 2x?
Are you reading with me?
Yeah.
So what we're trying to figure out right now is what it means to do $50 less than 90% of. So do you start subtracting 50 first, or do you find the 90% first?
Find the 90%
You
first.
find the 90% first. So to this, that's a very good question. To find, how do you find 90%? This word of usually means multiply. And then the words percent mean per 100. So 90% means 90 out of 100. So right here, this is the number 90 out of 100. It is not the number 90. Or 0.9. But how did I get 0.9? I didn't, move the decimal over. I mean, that's what you were told to do, but that's not what we're doing. It's really because you're dividing by 100. 90% is out of 100. But yeah, it does become 0.9. And then after we find this answer, then we subtract 50. So our profit, I'm going to call P of X because it's profit, is going to be, what is 0.9 times 2?
1 times 2 or 0.18?
1.8. Nope.
You know what I mean.
It's going to be way less profit if you think it's the same thing. So this would be our profit function. What it says describe, let's describe the transformations. So from 2x, what did we do first? We multiplied by 0.9. So is that what kind of transformation that we've been learning about?
It's a stretch.
Did it get bigger?
No.
So it's not a stretch, it's a shrink. And this is a vertical shrink.
Because it's a fraction?
Yep, it's less than 1. So you write vertical shrink, comma, factor of 90.9. Sorry, forgot what it was. Vertical shrink, factor of 0.9. And then what does the minus 50 tell us?
Go left or down.
Translate down $50, right? Can I put no? Do you have to write the word translate? Yes. You are a big boy now. You have to write the word translate. Okay, and then the last thing we need to do is what is our profit for 100 downloads? So we use our profit equation, and we need to say, what if x is 100? So I'm going to do P of 100. That means find the function when I plug in 100. Question? Oh, not a question?
Just the answer.
You're ahead of me. You didn't ask that. So what's the answer, Austin?
130.
130 what?
Down to dollars. Yeah. Down to
What does x represent?
oh, the profit. Download.
What does x
Downloads.
represent? X is the downloads. So when I say for 100 downloads, x was downloads.
What's in the parentheses?
100. 100.
Right here? Yeah, right here is 100.
It's actually
I'm sorry, these don't erase, sorry. 1.8 times 100 minus 50 is 130 what? Dollars profit. You're finding your profit, that's dollars.
This actually makes so much more sense than yesterday.
It comes with time.